Okay. So yesterday we have discussed about for each activity and switch activity, right? So to continue with that, today we'll take few more activities and we'll discuss further on those activities. Okay. So basically, understand activity is something you have to perform some action, right? So in every programming language, we will be having some setup to do something. So if it is SQL, we'll be having clauses, statements, and if it is Unix, some commands. So likewise, for everywhere, you'll be having um, something, some commands or clauses to take care of your tasks. Okay, so in ADF, we have these activities. Okay, so uh, our end goal we have to achieve by creating some connectivity between these activities and build pipeline and to achieve our uh, base requirement use case. Okay, so that is the reason we are slowly learning one by one and will combine a few things to get into that particular use cases. Okay, so today we will start with this until activity. Until activity, it is something similar, like not similar, it's a kind of loop activity again, like our for each activity. So for each activity, so what we have done for a particular number of elements, we have done looping, and inside that, we will be applying some activities based on our requirement. So same way, if you want to do something in loop, okay, so there is another activity that is until activity. It is a bit different when compared to for each activity. So for each activity is something. So you'll be having fixed number of elements. Fixed in the sense maybe you'll be getting some 5 elements, 10 elements, and inside this activity, whatever we have written, so those activities will be executed for 5 times, 10 times, something like that. Okay. So but until activity is it is something until some condition meet. Okay, match till that point your loop will goes on. Okay, if you take a simple example, suppose um, you are waiting for a file. Okay, so assume that you are waiting for a file to execute for further steps. If the file arrives, then you need to start executing your process. If there is no file, then you need to do something else. Okay, so while doing that, right, maybe you're looking for a particular file.txt. Okay, and I want to wait for this particular file if the file does not exist. So I want to wait for this file for 5 times. So 5 times, and for every time I want to wait for 1 minute. So that means, so I'll check for this file. If it exists, then I need to do I need to do something. If it is not there, then I have to wait for 1 minute, and again I'll look for this particular file.txt. And if it is there, then I will proceed further. If it is not there, then again I'll check. If it is not there, check. So likewise, I'll check for 5 times and I'll go for further steps. Okay. So sometimes you are having some logic until this arrives, until this file is available. I want to perform something. I don't want to wait for 5 times. I want to wait until this is available. So it is something like this. If your scenario is similar to this, then you will be using this until activity. Okay, so there's no fixed number of times. Then you can go with this until activity. That is a simple example. Okay, so one real-time use case where we use this until activity is something like when you are using REST API. So REST API. So REST API in the sense you are using. Suppose you are trying to extract data from a particular website. Assume that you are trying to connect to something and you want to extract from that particular service. Okay. So you want to extract it from that particular service. So that's what we call it as REST API. So in cloud computing or in this Hadoop file systems and all, you hear this REST API a lot. So REST APIs are something by using some API, we'll connect to some website or some system, and we'll extract the data from that particular system. So usually, so every service they'll be creating REST API for this connection. Okay. So similarly, we have some REST API. So then I need to connect to that particular service and I need to extract the data from that particular service. Assume that you have that scenario. So if that is the case, I will be using some activity in ADF, that is web activity. So we have one activity called web activity. By using that, you can be able to connect to this particular REST API, and then you can be able to do the stuff like you can be able to extract the data. So in this case, right? So from ADF, I'm trying to use a web activity to connect to this particular service and extract. And after this, maybe I'll be doing something. So after extracting, maybe I'll be doing something else, some operations. Okay. So but before that, so do you really are able to connect to this particular REST API, this service by using this REST API? So that depends on whether you are able to connect to this REST API. Maybe the service is down, so you are unable to connect to that particular service. There are some different scenarios, right? So until that connectivity established, I want to check if it is available. Then I want to do that extraction. If not, I'll wait for maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then again I will try to connect to this particular service. So if you have that kind of scenario, in this case, I'll be using until activity. Until I connect to this particular REST API, I keep on checking. I keep on checking to whether that is available or not. It is something like you are looking for an employee for in your organization, and if it is from 9 till 10 o'clock, I'll wait for him. If he's coming to the office to address some meeting, so then in that case, from 9 to 10, I'll wait and I'll look for him for every 5 minutes, and then I'll go for my work, something like that. That is one scenario. That is for each activity. So you are looking for him for a particular number of times, but that meeting has to be attached by that particular person. Okay, if that is the case, until he arrives, you have to wait. Okay, so similar to that. Yeah. So similar to that, we will be using this until activity. So this is the great example in ADF. We'll be using this in most of the projects, right? So we'll be connecting to some REST API, and then until that arrives, so you have to wait. Okay. So, but unfortunately, I could not able to showcase the example. Okay. So I could not able to connect REST API or something. I could not able to showcase, but maybe you can be able to practice this by using some simple example. Okay, maybe you can go with some varies for each. Okay, I'm not saved. Until activity. Here you can see until activity. Okay, so until activity just it looks like our for each activity, right? So here you have to write your logic. So what expression? Until some expression, then this will be keep on waiting. Okay, and this is something timeout. So until this time, maybe so for 12 hours, it is seconds, minutes, hours, and days. So if this criteria is not matching, okay, if this criteria is not matching, I'll wait for 12 hours. Okay, and if within the 12 hours, if I am unable to get it, then my until will be failed. So that's what this meant. Maybe I want to wait for maybe some 5 minutes, then you have to say something like this. So it is 5 minutes, I'll wait. If it is not happening, then I'll fail this. So that is how this until activity. So if you want, maybe you can take some example and then you can practice it, otherwise just leave it. Maybe to do that, so you don't need to break your heads. Maybe give me some sample example, simple example, otherwise simple example to practice until activity in ADF. So this will suggest you something. Maybe use this, and this is one example. Until activity, start a counter at 0, increase it by 1, and stop when counter equal to 5. Maybe inside your until activity, you can write this logic so that you will get to know how to write and all. So likewise, use ChatGPT and anything for anything, maybe to get the example, to make better understanding. So everywhere you can use this ChatGPT. So I'm not going to explain a lot on this until, so you can practice this. So it's just like your for each activity. And then actually this is use case is also very limited. So only in this case, right? Only in this REST API connection. So during only that point of time, I've seen this until activity. So otherwise, there's no much use cases in your actual projects. And then validation activity. So this is another um, very much useful activity. It will check whether a file exists or not. Okay, so I have some ADLS container, and inside that I'm having list of files and all. I want to check whether a file exists or not before writing any other logic. Okay, so if file exists, then I want to copy from one location to another location, from file to table. So likewise, right? So before that, before performing anything, I want to perform. I want to check whether file exists or not. Not table, it's only file. Okay, so whether that file exists or not. So that easily can be done by using this validation activity. Validation activity. So validation activity, if you see here, right? So the properties are something like this. So general, inside this general, you'll not be having anything. So in settings, you have to specify. So what do you want? What exactly you are looking for? So as I mentioned, so here you'll be able to see the data set. So which file you want to see, which file you are expecting to check whether that file exists or not. Maybe I'm going into this ds underscore ls. I'm just checking what is this talking about. It's maybe some address validation.txt. So this is the data set. Uh, this ds underscore ls is pointing to, and then I'm checking. Maybe I'll come back to this things. Okay, so maybe let me execute this. So we have already given that data set. And so inside the data set, you can see your file name, right? So that's where I'm not configuring anything. I just selected dataset. So that dataset indirectly point to your file. So now it will tell you whether the file exists. So it got completed. Maybe if you go here, right, exists true. So that means that file, whatever you are looking for, that file is already available. So maybe let us go to storage account and inside the container input. So this is what we have looked upon, and since this file is available, it gave us true. So let us do one thing. Maybe let me go here. So instead of hard coded, maybe file name as a parameter, and let me call that parameter over here. Okay, so that I can pass at runtime. Maybe I'm just passing some out.txt, so which is not available in my storage account. So I'm just looking whether this out.txt is available in my ds underscore adls dataset, which is pointing to container input folder. So inside that input folder, out.txt. So that is not available. So I'm just executing it now for that particular out.txt. So now it should throw us exists as false since it is not available. So this is just yeah, it just checks whether the file exists or not. That's all. So why do I need to check whether the file exists or not? So basically, to make more effective effect of your code, right? So we'll be doing that. First, we'll check whether the file exists or not. If it is not exist, maybe I will write some logic. If it does not exist, I'll write some other logic. So based on that, right? So to understand that, you have to use this particular activity. So it is something I think I'm not sure in other programming languages. Maybe if you take Unix, right? So this is how you will be checking. If file exists, then I'll be writing something. Else, I will be writing some other logic. So likewise in Python also, you'll be having file.found or some logic. Oh, okay. Yeah. This is because, right? It will not end. It will not end for almost 12 hours of time. It keeps on checking whether that file exists or not. Why? Because, so if you see here, right, if it is exists, it will throw you exists as true. If it is not there, so here if you see timeout and sleep properties. So this will tell you specify the timeout for the activity to run. If no value is specified, default value is 12 hours. Meaning, if the file does not exist, it will keep on checking and for 12 hours of time. Okay. And sleep is something, a delay in seconds between validation attempts. So it will wait for 10 seconds and again it will check whether this file exists or not. If it is not there, again it will wait for 10 seconds and then move on. So how many times it will execute? For 12 hours of time, it will keep on executing your pipeline. Okay, so that's what it is happening here now. Okay, so it keeps on checking so many times, and since it is not there, it keeps on checking. Okay, so maybe let me put that file. Maybe let me, so how to copy. So suppose I want to copy this file into my storage account. So it is something like you can click on this clone. So it will clone your file, and maybe I'm just saying out.txt. So that is the file we have written, right, out.txt. Maybe I'm creating that file. Okay, so that since that is available here, so this validation activity, right, so it should be successful. Maybe after this sleep 10 seconds, right, again it will go and it will check for that particular file. So since the file is available now, it should success now, maybe after 10 seconds or 20 seconds. Now it is successful. Okay, since it is file is available. So that is how it will wait. Okay, so even whatever we have seen until activity, right? So whatever I have explained. So the same concept is same. So here indirectly we are specifying timeout and sleep, and we have mentioned in the same way until 12 hours of time for each 10 seconds of interval, it will keep on checking for this particular file. Whenever the file is available and whenever the file found, it will throw true. Otherwise, it will wait for 12 hours of time, and after 12 hours, it will show you that exists as false. Okay, so that is how this validation activity works. Okay, yeah, user properties I'll tell you later. Yeah, so that's how this validation activity is. So simple activity. It's not too much heavy. It's not heavy activity. It checks whether a file exists or not. Okay. So any questions for me so far? Okay. And delete activity. So delete activity is something if you want to delete a particular file or list of files or some directory in your ADLS, right? So there that you can be able to perform that particular task from ADF by using this delete activity. Okay, so let me go here. Let me save this available parameter file. Mm-mm. Why is this came into picture now? Okay, I'll see that later. Yeah, maybe I'm creating one more pipeline, which is delete. So please follow this delete activity. I'm not just showing you the only the delete. Delete activity concept is simple. Whatever the file name you give, so that will delete that particular file. Okay. So apart from that, I'm going to explain you a few more things, which is uh, common for lookup activity and then copy data activity. So those concepts are common in other activities as well. So those things we'll discuss in this, so that you can practice. Maybe you can practice in lookup activity as well. Okay, so you can go back to lookup activity and practice that. So delete activity, as I mentioned, it will delete whatever you specify. Okay, so suppose I want to delete a particular file. Suppose I want to delete this particular out.txt file. So just yeah, I'm going here. So to delete this particular file, so obviously from ADF, what you need to do, you have to connect to this particular ADLS. So that we know that we can perform by using this data set. So this data set is pointing to some link service. Again, I'm just going back, right? So link service. So this link service will talk about. So this is a ADLS file. Okay. So that is how you are connected to that, and you can be able to perform something in terms of ADLS. Okay. So in delete activity, I have selected this ds underscore ADLS. So ds underscore ADLS is something this one. So this is storage account, and inside input folder I'm having some file name. Oh, okay. So here, so file is a parameter, right? So you need to pass the parameter. So whatever the parameter value is specified as part of file, so that file will be deleted by using this delete. Okay. So why do you want to delete? Maybe after copy from one folder to another folder, I want to delete this particular file. I don't want to maintain this that particular file in my storage account. Okay. Or after 2 days, I want to purge. Purge in the sense I want to delete. Okay. So I want to delete that particular file from that particular container. So if that is the case, then you'll be using this delete activity. Okay. So here I'll be specifying my file name. Maybe my file name is out.txt. Out.txt. Okay. I want to delete this particular file. Okay. Simply you can specify that. And these options, I'll come back to these options. So for now, file path in dataset. So this is what I have selected. So that means whatever the path you have given as part of your dataset, with that particular file path, it will go and remove that particular file. So that's what we mentioned here. Okay. So this logging settings, actually I'm disabling this for now. I'll tell you what this is. Okay. I'll come back to that. So inside this delete activity, so we have provided the required details, basic required details we have given. So the data set we have selected. So that data set is pointing to some ADLS location, and what file I want to delete, I have specified over here. Okay, so since this is parameter, so I'm just executing this. So this is a basic concept of your delete activity, but we will extend the more concepts into it. Okay, so this is succeeded. Okay, so if you go back to your ADLS and if I refresh, that out.txt should not be here. So that is gone. But because so we have deleted that from ADF pipeline. Okay, and so instead of file path in dataset, maybe you have one more option called wildcard file path. What do you mean by wildcard? So usually you will be having this wildcard in every programming language. Okay, so if you have suppose customer underscore India.txt and customer underscore Pakistan.txt, customer underscore us.txt. If you have something like this, right? Suppose you have some 1,000 files, and I want to represent all the customer files, and I know that my customer files names starts with CUST. So if that is the case, you will be writing your representation something like this: cust star.txt or cust underscore star.txt. So this star indicates after cust and before this .txt. Okay, so in between any number of characters. So that is representing by this star. That star is called wildcard character. So same way you will be having star, question mark, so something like that. Okay, so question mark is represents one character and star represents any number of characters. So that's how you'll be specifying your wildcard character. Okay, suppose here what I will do is I'll be using some wildcard selection, and we will be providing wildcard file names over here. Okay, and to do this, right, so this one I know that to a specific file, if you want to delete a specific file, then you will be using this file path in dataset, and we'll be providing the file name. And if you want to do this, right, so you have to provide some directory. So instead of file, you have to provide the directory. So to do that, my existing data set will not be sufficient for me. Why? Because this data set is pointing to a file. It is not pointing to any directory. Okay, it's not pointing to any directory. It is pointing to a file. So if it is pointing to a file, right, so that data set, I cannot use it as a directory. Okay, so for that reason, I have to create another data set which is pointing to ADLS, but instead of file, it should point to a directory. So then I can be able to use that. So for that, maybe I'm doing this cloning. Okay, again, I'm using clone. Okay, on data set as well. I'm going to create another ADLS. Maybe I'll be using dir as my directory name. Okay, and I'll remove this, I will not maintain any file name. So it is simply container name and my directory name. So here again, container name I have hard coded, and directory name I have hard coded. So what you can do, you can go and create parameters, and you can call those parameters over here instead of hard coding. So that is there. Always use parameterized dataset, parameterized pipeline, so that you can make it automated way, and you can use that as a generic pipeline or generic data set. Okay, so as of now, I'm just maintaining this input. Okay, so with this, I'm going back to delete. Okay, so now instead of using ds underscore ADLS, I will use ADLS dir, so that it will point to a particular directory. Okay, not to the file. So why I'm getting this file? Because here I have created a file, so it's not required for me now. So I just deleted that, and that is disappeared now. Okay, I want to delete it now from this particular input directory based on some wildcard file path. So to do that, maybe I just need to simulate, right? Maybe I need to create some files over here so that I can make use of that particular one over there. So assume that I'll upload some files here. Upload some files. What files? Yeah, maybe I'm having this data. I'm just uploading this data, right? I'll not upload huge volume of data. Okay, so I have uploaded some file names which starts with the dim, currency, dim, date, something like that. And apart from that, I'm having orders validation. So now what my intention is, I want to delete all the files which starts with the dim. Okay, so I assume that it's a dimension table. So how do you specify that? Dim star dot txt or dim star. So whatever you are looking, and maybe you can specify that dim star, so that it will go and remove that files, all files which starts with dim. So that's what my intention is. So instead of specifying file by file, if you have 1,000 files or 10,000 files, all files will be removed at once. Okay, so I'm just executing this. And similarly, right, prefix, you just give a try on this. Prefix is something, the file name starts with the dim, or starts with cust. Okay, so in that case, you can specify that as a prefix. So more or less both are same. If you want to specify only for prefix, you can use this. Actually, this is not required. Uh, Everything you can make it inside wildcard file path itself. This is not required. Yeah, when you see this queued, right? So that means your integration runtime is not started, and it is waiting for that particular computation. Okay, maybe because of some reasons. So that integration runtime is not started, and it is waiting for that. Okay, it is success. Maybe let us go here. Yeah, everything is gone. So all the files which start with the DIM, so all those files got deleted since we have specified this particular wildcard file path. Okay, so this is another option. And one more option is a list of files. Suppose you have some list of files you want to delete. Okay, suppose I want to delete from input, I want to delete this particular file and one more file. So likewise, you have some 5 files you want to delete it. So in that case, you can use this list of files. How to use this list of files? Let me tell you. So whatever you want, right? Maybe I want to delete a file from input directory, something first.txt or something. And again, in my input directory, I'm having something dimension, and inside that I'm having some file.txt. And in my input directory, I'm having some fact and then facts.txt. So likewise, I have some list of files I want to delete. Okay, so if you have a specific list, so in that case, what you need to do is you have to create a file called something list.txt or whatever it is, config.txt. The file name you can mention whatever you want. So inside this file, you'll be specifying all this list, whatever you want to delete it, right? So all that list specify in this particular part so that that will be deleted, whatever the file names you have mentioned inside that particular list.txt. Suppose I'm going back to a storage account, and inside this, uploading few more files to delete specific things. Let us do that. Maybe let me upload dim date, this one, this one. Okay, I have uploaded inside this input directory, and also let me create one directory here, maybe something dimension, and inside this directory, let us upload few more files. Just for the sake of example, I'm taking some directory names. I'm just choosing small files. Why? Because once you upload huge files, right, it will consume space and it will give you the cost. So I'm creating another directory. Okay, so maybe some facts. Okay, and upload some files over here as well. Okay, I have uploaded this. Suppose from this particular facts table, I want to delete this 2019.csv. So just copy URL and I'm keeping that somewhere. I just kept here and I'm going to input, and inside this input, I want to delete this dim.txt, and suppose I want to delete this as well. Copy, and then I'm going to facts we have done. So dimension. So inside this dimension, I want to remove this sample. Suppose. Okay. So I want to remove this list. Okay, so there's no wildcard or nothing. I need to specify this. Okay, so how do you specify? As I mentioned, you have to create a file called some file name you have to create, and inside that you have to specify this. Okay, so I'll be creating some file name, some sample file here. Okay, so assume that where is this? Maybe let me copy this and I'll change it later. Something list.txt. So this is what I want to create, and list.txt, go here, edit, remove all the existing one, and then whatever is required for me, just copy this and paste here. Okay, and so do I need to maintain this exact things like HTTPS and my storage account name and container name and folder name? So till what point I want to maintain this? So that depends on your data set. So you have created the data set, right? So just open the data set. So what it contains, It already contains my storage account name and some directory name. Okay. So until this directory, you don't need to specify. After this, what do you want? So that you have to specify inside this. So that means till this point, you don't need to specify anything. So automatically, when you use delete and when you see this dataset indicates, I can be able to travel till container and folder by using this dataset. You no need to tell me explicitly again and again, something like this. When you say this, right? So what will this derive is inside this container, inside this input, and it will again try to search for this particular one. Okay, so for that reason, you no need to specify until this part. So it is already specified in your data set. Okay, so from there, what do you want? From input directory, I want to go to facts and I want to delete this. And inside my input directory, I want to delete this, and inside my input directory, I have dim directory, and inside that particular one, I want to delete sample.txt. Okay, so here understand that I'm not trying to explain you the delete activity alone. So I'm trying to explain you how to use this list of files, wildcard path, all those things. Why? Because those things we will be using in other activities as well. Okay. So I just saved, and so my list file is ready. So this list file, as I mentioned, I have to specify over here in my delete activity. So inside my delete activity, just select this list of files so that it will look for path to the file list. So based on your selection, automatically your below options will be changed based on your selections. Okay. So I have selected this. So it is looking for that particular file. Maybe you can specify what are the file you have created or just browse it. So this will take you to the storage account. So there you can see this one, and then in in input I have created this list file, right? So I need to select this so that this delete activity will understand I'm going to delete some list of files. So that list is available in this particular file. So this list of txt is contains some data. That data is nothing but your file names. So this will take this file name, delete this file, and then this file, delete that particular file. So that is how your connection will be. And now I'm using this and I'll execute this. Once I execute this, of course, this will be gone. And again, inside my dim, this will be gone. And inside fact, I have selected something, right? So all those things will be deleted automatically. So that's how you can specify in numerous ways. So the same thing, whatever I'm saying, right? Maybe I'm just written this. Here you can see the same file path in dataset, wildcard file path, list of files. So that means you can be able to extract the data from a particular file by using lookup, or you can extract the data from multiple files by using lookup, or you can extract the data from list of files. If I say a few files, I can be able to extract the data from those files. So that's what this represents. And the same thing you can be able to see from copy data activity as well. So inside the copy data activity as well, you can see the same options. Okay, so we'll come back to that, of course, again. Yeah, now if I go here, my data got deleted. Okay, so whatever I have specified in my list files, so those things got deleted. So that is how you can make use of this particular list of files option over here. Okay, so this is one option. Prefix, if you want, you can just use that file path and file path in dataset. Okay, and another thing is inside this we are specifying file path, wildcard file path, and something. So apart from that, we have one more option called filter by last modified. Maybe whatever the files which you got created after February 3rd, after some time, whatever the files got created, I want to delete those files. So you can simply use this filter by last modified, and you can specify that start time and end time. Suppose I want to delete all the files which got created between February 3rd, 10 a.m. to February 3rd, some 8 p.m. So if you specify that all the files which you got created in your ADLS between these two dates will be deleted automatically. So this is another good feature to delete maybe apart from all these options. Okay, and this recursively. So this recursively indicates, so I want to delete the data from a particular directory. Suppose I want to delete all the files from this particular directory. So you can simply use this, and you can specify recursively, so that it will delete all the files and folder of this input completely. Suppose here I have facts. Okay, facts I have one file. Okay, let us upload few files. Okay, I want to delete the complete directory and also the files inside it. So I want to delete this completely. Okay, so just copy this. Okay, inside this data set, right? So you just need to just think of like how to specify my data set. So that is more important. Okay, so if you see here, my storage account, and here I'm having input directory. Okay, input folder. So, but what I need to do now, I need to delete inside the input. I want to delete facts directory. So here, what you need to do, you have to specify facts over here. Okay, so that it will go and try to delete this particular facts directory. Okay, you can't specify facts over here, but because this is file name, it's not a directory name. So here, this is the directory name. So whatever you want, you can specify your directory structure over here, not inside this particular option. So this is completely for only for file name. So I have specified I want to delete this particular directory, input facts directory, which is available in my input directory from this particular container. And I want to delete the particular directory. And I have selected this recursively. Recursively in the sense, it will delete all these subdirectories, files, everything inside this, and finally that particular facts directory. Okay, so that's how this recursively helps you process all files in the input folder and its subfolders recursively are just the ones in the selected folder. The setting is disabled when a single file is selected. If you select only one file, right? So this is not required. If you want to delete entire structure, I want to delete all the subfolders and all the files, then you'll be selecting this particular recursively option. So if I execute it now, right? So it will delete all the files inside this particular facts and facts directory. Okay, so it will no, it is directory, right? It's not file. It's pointing to directory. There's no file. So if you want to delete a particular file, then you have to. Mhm. Yeah, but if you have subdirectories inside this, right, it will not delete those subdirectories. It will not allow you to do that. Okay, so if you guys know something like in Unix, RMDIR, and if you specify some directory name here, okay, it will delete that particular directory. But if you want to do recursively the entire directory, then you have to give rm-r. Recursively, it will delete all the things. So that's what this recursively option is. Okay. Yeah, that is gone now. So that's how you will be using this one, delete activity. And coming to logging settings. Okay, so please try to understand all these things because as I showed you, you will be using all these things in lookup activity and as well as copy data activity. Okay, so practice even with lookup activity as well. Of course, copy data activity. We'll come back to that. Copy data activity is the more usage activity in ADF. So that is a primary activity in total ADF. Okay, so we'll be discussing almost 2 hours on copy data activity itself. Okay, and logging settings is something. So you have done some operation in delete activity. I want to log this. I want to log this whatever I have performed on this particular activity. Then you can enable this logging. Okay, so enable logging in the sense specify whether you want to log the deleted file names in your logging store. So you have deleted some 5 files, 3 files. Okay, so do you want to log that information? If yes, then click on this S so that it will enable you something. Okay, so logging settings. So logging in the sense, XYZ file got deleted and some PQR file got created, deleted. So that information you have to store somewhere, right? So where do you want to store? Where do you want to store that information, that logging information? Again, you will be storing that information in your storage account only. So you have to specify, go to this particular storage account and create the file in this particular location as logging file so that I can be able to revisit that particular file and I can understand what all the files got deleted. So that's what you have to mention over here. So and enable logging, once you do that, so you will be getting something like this. So again, indirectly what you are trying to do, you are trying to connecting to a particular ADLS account and you are going to store some file there. Okay, so for that reason, this is pointing to a link service. So what link service you want to use? I want to use this ls underscore ADLS. That means I have created link service for ADLS. I'm going to use this. And where do you want to store your file? So you have specified by link service. You are pointing to a particular ADLS. That's fine. So where do you want to store your file? So you have to specify the directory name. So where exactly you want to specify? Maybe let me create one directory. Maybe let me create this as logging directory. Okay, for the first time, as I mentioned, right, you have to create some simple file. Otherwise, that will not be visible. So that will be gone. So for that reason, I'm just uploading some sample file. Okay, so I want to create inside my input, I'm having logging directory. So here I want to store my logging information. You just select that, save, okay. So inside this particular logging directory, I want to log my information. Okay, so I want to maybe let me delete a particular file, maybe list of files, list.txt, my list.txt. So, but I'm not having files, right? It's already removed. Mm, maybe let me copy this dim promotion.txt. I just specified this and I want to remove this particular file. Okay, so that's what I mentioned inside my list.txt and I'm calling that list of files list.txt and I'm going to execute this delete activity by enabling this logging setting, and that logging setting is pointing to this particular link service which is pointing to ADLS, and that where I'm going to store my information, so that is inside my logging directory. Okay, so with that I'm just executing this. So apart from deleting, now it will create some logging log file and inside that you can be able to find some information. So what is that? Maybe let us go here and it should remove this particular file. Okay, it is successful. This is the one what we have given, right? Inside input dim promotion.txt. Why is this not removed? It will give you information something like this. This dim promotion.txt, it is got deleted. Okay, so that's what it is representing. So this is how you can be able to see the information. Okay, but this is not deleted. I don't know why. Refresh. Okay, I'm not sure what happened. Let it be. Yeah. So that is how you'll be using this delete activity. Any questions on this in total? So I just included this explanation, so that is the reason it took some time. Otherwise, delete activity is very simple. Okay. So how to delete a specific file or a specific directory with recursive option or wildcard option or prefix option and list of files option. So for list of files, you have to use this some file name, and inside that file name, you have to specify what are the files you want to delete, and this is the enabling option. So enable logging option. And remember, if it is very much required, it is something like audit on logging and tracking, you can say. If you want to really maintain the logging information, then only use this. Otherwise, just unnecessarily do not use this logging option because it will cost. Because it will be overhead, some overhead on top of your regular process, and as well as it will consume some memory. Okay, and it will consume some storage, networking, and everything. So it will cost you something. So with that, so if it is not required, don't use it. So that is the recommendation. Okay. So that's about delete activity. Okay. Any questions for me? Yeah. Yeah. Understood that. You so in that case, right? Maybe instead of selecting hard coded, right? So maybe you can write some logic here. So you know that UTC now, and yeah, I want to specify. Maybe today is something, right? 2026-01 or 0204. Okay, so some 10 a.m. Okay, or 03 from yesterday or from 3 days back until today 10 a.m. So I want to delete this. So that means, so maybe today fourth, right? So 3 days back from 10 a.m. until today. Okay, so if that is the case, you can write that logic. So how do you want to specify here and that end time here, so that only the files which got created between these two dates will be deleted from this particular delete activity. So how do you write that logic? Maybe you can use some functions. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe if you want, maybe I'll, how to get exactly. Exactly. So we no need to write separately. Like I no need to check for each file, and you don't need to write some hard coded kind of thing. So automatically it will be deleted. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Mm. Yes. We have that. It's a good use case actually. We'll be discussing, of course, but let me tell you. So whatever you are saying is maybe inside a particular directory, I'm having suppose 10 files. Okay. So out of 10 files, maybe I'll consider all 10 files I'll consider all 10 files or few files, maybe some 5 files. So based on some pattern, maybe the files which ends with .csv or something, I want to consider those files. Okay. So instead of all 10 files. So after this, the next step would be I need to copy these files into suppose an table. Okay. And then once copy is done, once copy is successful, then I want to delete those files. Is this what you are expecting? Yeah. So if this is the case, right? So this actually we will be discussing maybe tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll be doing that same thing. So maybe after copy data, I'll include that delete activity. That's all. So get metadata activity, filter activity for each activity, inside the for each activity, copy data, and after that delete activity. So the combination. Okay. So let me copy this and keep it so that we can do this tomorrow. Yeah. So everyone understood this, right? This is one of the use case actually. Okay, I'll give you the details, more details tomorrow, and we'll work it out tomorrow on that particular use case. Yeah. Um, yeah. So let me take the next activity, get metadata activity, and I'll not explain you everything. Maybe I'll stop after a few minutes. So get metadata activity, this is another very much useful activity. So if you take ADF, right, so there are hardly 5 to 10 activities we'll be using very frequently. Okay, so it is something like set variable activity and get metadata activity, lookup activity, maybe store procedure activity, and then web activity for each activity. So these are the activities which we'll be using very frequently. Okay, so out of that, get metadata activity is very much useful activity. So what does this get metadata activity is? So like validation activity, this until activity, and then switch activity. We will not be using those activities actually. So just for the sake of discussion, we discuss this switch activity, until activity, validation activity. So we'll not be using much those. So get metadata activity, basically, this will get metadata information. So when you are pointing to some data set, so it will give you metadata information. So what do you mean by metadata? Metadata, it's a very common word. If you don't understand what is metadata, Google it, ChatGPT, and understand what is metadata. Metadata is something data about your data. Okay. So if you have your table, okay. So what is the data of your table? So if you are talking about customer table, so that will be holding some data inside your customer table. So 100, comma, some date, comma, phone number, comma, address. So what does that mean? So that is the data of your customer. Okay. So when I say metadata is when you are talking about customer, right? So your customer file, customer table or file will be having customer ID, customer name, customer address, phone number. So likewise, you'll be having some information, right? So this is nothing but metadata. So the data which is talking about your table or file. So that is called metadata. Okay. So that information you can be able to get it by using this get metadata activity. So let us just execute this and let us see what does this contains. Okay. So the next details maybe we'll see tomorrow. So let us just execute it and let us see what does this metadata get metadata activity contains. So get metadata. Again, whatever the data set you are connected to, so based on that, it will give you that information. So if you are connected to ADLS, it will give you ADLS file information. If it is table information. So assume I am connecting to a ADLS file. Okay, so there is a difference between ADLS file and ADLS directory. So that we'll see later. Okay, so I'm just connecting ADLS file. Okay, and we need to provide the file name. Maybe what file we have inside input directory. Input directory file dot list dot txt. Maybe let me give list dot txt. Okay, so I have selected the data set and I want to extract metadata of this particular data set. And since it is expecting parameter, I just gave parameter file name there. I'm just executing it. Field list, okay, cannot empty. Yeah. So out of it, right? So this get metadata will give you some list. So what metadata you are expecting? So are you expecting something? Okay. Child items, column count. Are you expecting column count? How many columns that particular file has? And what is the file name? What is that particular file name? And what is the type of that particular file? Is it .txt file, .csv file, or .parquet file, something like that? Last modified. At what time this file got modified recently? And what is the size? What is the volume of that particular file? And the structure. What is the structure of that particular file? Meaning columns. Okay. So if you want any of these, maybe you can check that. Maybe exists. If I say exists, whether that particular file is available or not. Okay, you can think like validation activity also do the same, right? Yes, that will also do the same, but this is one of the option available in your get metadata activity. And I want to add one more. Maybe I want to add column count. How many number of columns are there? And maybe I want to add one more. Maybe I want to say size. What is the size of that particular file? So I just execute it. So metadata, if you understand it correctly, size, it's a metadata. So size is some metric which is talking about your actual file. Okay. So last modified time. So at what time it got modified? It is successful. And if you go here, exists true. That means it is already there. And size, what is the size of that particular file? It has 16 bytes. Okay, well, because it is having only some information, right? It has only 16 characters maybe. Okay, so it is simple. So that is the reason it is 16. And maybe column count, how many number of columns are there? So there is no column, comma separated or anything, right? So that is the reason it is saying single column. So if you select some file which is having actual data, maybe what is this? Dim promotion.txt. Oh, it's a Parquet file. It's not a normal file. What is the difference between Parquet files? All those things we will see, we'll discuss in detail. So it is not human readable format. Parquet format, Avro format, Delta format. Those are not human readable format. Only .txt, .csv, .json. Those are the human readable formats. Okay, so if you take this, this is a human readable format. Okay, so this get metadata activity will give you such kind of information. Okay, suppose instead of file, I'll be selecting a table. Okay, so table, what is this? Address. Okay, so for this, what do you want? Maybe I'm expecting edges, column count, and maybe mm, structure. And the arguments, right? So these are different from your table to file. Why? Because table will be having different properties and file will be having different properties. Okay. So based on your data set, automatically this will be changed. Okay. So if you see here now, um, exists true. Structure is something like this. Structure What is your first column name? Address ID. What is the data type of it? Integer. So maybe something like this, address ID. So like this, it will give you a lot of information, metadata information about your table. Okay, so this is about get metadata activity. Not fully, I just gave you overview, and tomorrow we'll start discussing on this get metadata activity, and we will be able to extract metadata out of this get metadata activity, and after that we'll discuss on this particular use case. So this use case is right. So just giving you heads up so that you can be able to like just refresh your knowledge on those activities. So tomorrow to work on this particular thing, entire thing, right? We will be discussing. We need to use get metadata activity, and then after extraction 10 files, consider okay filter activity. So did we discuss filter activity already? Okay, so filter activity we have not discussed. Maybe we'll discuss filter activity as well after get metadata, filter activity, and then for each activity, and inside the for each activity, we'll be discussing copy data activity, and after that will be, if required, we can use validate activity as well, just for practice purpose. Validate activity, copy data activity, and then delete activity. Okay, so we'll be using all the combination of these activities to achieve this particular one. So to before that, we'll be discussing these two activities, and then we'll be discussing this use case. Okay, so that we'll do tomorrow. Any questions for me? If you have any questions, right, please ping me on that particular chat so that I can be able to respond. Okay, so if no questions, maybe I'll stop here for today and we'll connect tomorrow. Okay.